Good evening and welcome to Mindful Live 290. I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It's the 12th of October in the year of our Lord 2023, and the month is well along. We're nearly halfway through the month of October already. Imagine that. And there are wars and rumors of wars all around us. We know the conflict right now in Israel and Palestine, and someone was saying that Palestine should just surrender one time. Jacques says, I'm kind of confused because the Palestinians are saying this has been done to them for years. The media is always going to highlight what gets reactions. TED Talk and Eric Bischoff, WCW Wrestling. Well, this has been done to them for years. What has been done to them for years? I'm not sure what is the thing that has been done to them for years, but yes, Palestine, especially Gaza, has been in a difficult position for years. But it's not just like some of these things are not only on the Israelis. Israel has pulled out totally out of Gaza since 2006. Hamas was running the country since 2005 or 2006, somewhere about there. When they're complaining about water from Israel only supplies 20% of Gaza water. I believe the rest comes from Egypt. Gaza has an aquifer under it. They could have supplied their own water to a large extent. But instead of supplying water, Hamas dug up the water pipes that were laid in the ground to repurpose them to shoot rockets at Israel. A lot of the aid that comes in, Hamas repurposes it for military purposes. It's difficult for your country to run smoothly when a terrorist organization is your official government. From what I see, this latest war was provoked. All wars are provoked. All wars are provoked. Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine was provoked. The Nazis' invasion of Poland was provoked. The Japanese massacre of China could be said to have been provoked. The Japanese bombing of Pearl Harbor could have said to have been provoked. The dropping of the nukes on Hiroshima and Nagasaki could have said to be provoked. The bombing of Dresden in Germany was provoked. All wars are provoked. That's not a point. I'm interested to know how Hamas got weapons into Palestine. Doesn't Israel restrict everything? They have tunnels. They have smuggling. They try to restrict everything. And that's the purpose, at least that they say they restrict everything. Yeah, but will the oppression at the hands of Israel solely? No. To me, Gaza's main problem is Hamas. They need to get rid of Hamas. So this is what I believe. I don't know necessarily that this is 100% true, but judging from some of the things I've seen, these are my thoughts on it. Because I was looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, strategically, there's no point to Hamas doing what they did. They don't get any positive movement strategically to any of their goals. What goal do you wish to accomplish by doing that? Okay, you kidnap some Israelis, which may be a good goal, but you already massacre some of them, so that ensures that Israel isn't really at the negotiating table with you. So what would be the point of them doing what they did? Well, Saudi Arabia, there's also friction within the Islamic world between Sunni and Shiite Muslims, different sects of Islam. Saudi Arabia happens to be Sunni Muslims, Iran happens to be Shia Muslims, and they don't generally get along. The intention that a peace deal that was being pushed with Israel and Saudi Arabia had was that they were going to go. The previous thinking in foreign affairs, how they dealt with this situation, the idea was Israel had to make peace with Palestine and the Palestinians, and when they made peace with the Palestinians, the rest of the Islamic Arab world would open up to them and you'd get peace in the Middle East, as many people want. Now, the problem was, it seems to the Israelis that there's no solution to making peace with the Palestinians. The slogan of the Palestinians, of many Palestinians, is free Palestine from sea, from river to sea. Palestine will be free from the river to the sea. From the river to the sea is from Jordan to the Mediterranean, which means all of the land the Palestinians want as their own. They do not want Israel as a state there. So how does Israel negotiate with them? What they were going to do is forget about the Palestinians, go above them, form peace deals with the Saudis, form peace deals with the United Arab Emirates. That's Dubai and those guys. They already did that during the Abraham Accords during Trump's time. They form peace deals with the Arabic, Islamic, Northern African countries, Morocco, etc. And they would form peace like that, ignoring the Palestinians for now. But Iran is at loggerheads with Saudi, but Iran is also kind of a sworn enemy of Israel. They do not want Israel to exist either. So I think it would have been in Iran's better interest, because Iran is to a large extent who supplies both Hamas and Hezbollah, the two terrorist organizations that surround Israel. I think it would have been in Iran's best interest to have provoked that attack by Hamas, which would obviously provoke or cause an Israeli response, which has already curtailed the peace efforts with Saudis. So now the Saudis would not make peace, would not sign agreements with Israel while they're carpet bombing an Arab settlement that Gaza might be. That's not possible. So by fomenting that bit of action there in Israel and Gaza, Iran would be able to put a stop to the deal that was going to be made with the Saudis and Israel. However, that does not help Gaza. Stopping the deal with the Saudis does nothing to help Gaza. And is it that Iran would be okay with destroying all of Gaza just to get their geopolitical means to an end? And is it that Hamas would be okay with sacrificing their citizens for their geopolitical ends? And it's like, I don't even understand in some of this why people even decide that blaming Israel makes sense in this situation. Civilian deaths always happen in wars. That's how wars go. If Trinidad and Tobago is not capable of beating Venezuela in a war, and Dr. Keith Rowley and the People's National Movement send our regiment to do a raid on Venezuela, knowing fully well that Venezuela is going to respond and wipe us out, is it Venezuela's fault for responding and wiping us out? Or is it the fault of the people in our country who provoked people that can wipe us out? But who gives them the right? So if they care about truth more than life, so if Israel don't exist, what of the people? Israel would say they deserve at least a Jewish state. Yes, they would. Either people die or get displaced. Again, Israel is a Jewish state. What Hamas did had no... That's not the same. It's about self-freedom. And I saw one of the guys that we were discussing with last day, one of the videos he tagged me in was a Jewish lady. And there are many Jews around the world who are anti-Israel too. And a Jewish lady was pointing out that what about the Jews saying that they need a homeland? And she was saying, no, the Jews do not need a homeland because we now live in a diverse world where we intermingle and move around, and I find that to be a nonsense reason. That's nonsense. And if you look at this practically, Arabs, they say that they do not want, in this case, an ethno-Israeli state there. Look how many Arab ethno-states there are. How many Arab ethno-states are there? At least partially Arab or Islamic. From Pakistan, coming all the way Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, all of these All of these pulling all the way to North Africa. And then you're trying to tell me the one speck of a Jewish state among all of those Arab states, you're telling them that what is fair is for them to give up half of their country to Arabs. Does that make sense? Does that sound like something fair? Because these Arabs need to have self-determination. The Palestinians are Arabs. They need self-determination on their own country. But Muslim Arabs have all of the countries surrounding the area. You're trying to tell me that the Jews that have the only Jewish state in the area must give up their spot for another Arab self-determining state? Like, how do you... I don't even understand how these arguments are made. I've been asking this on X, Twitter, in some of those discussions, because I like to see what's being said all around the world, and I've been asking this. I have yet to see a plausible answer. Like, okay, what do you want Israel to do beside disappear? If disappearing isn't in the books for them, what is the next option? Yes, but you can't go to someone's land and claim it because you need a land. Whose land was it? Quibtech Holdings Limited. Whose land was it? Whose land was it? Because they could have only gone there because it was British land. And some of it was in fact owned by Jews. There were Jews in the land previously. So the Palestinians didn't own the land. The British owned the land. Before the British, the Ottomans owned the land. The Palestinians never owned the land. There were Palestinians that lived on the land. They never owned it like that. They didn't have the political control over it. And you could say that's not fair if you like, but that's just the reality of how life is. People who are natives to a region are not necessarily the people who are controllers of the land. I mean, it's like the Berbers of North Africa, the Moors of North Africa, trying to still control all of those North African countries out of Arab hands. Why don't the Arabs that are in Africa right now leave Africa to Africans? There are Arabs all around North Africa. Do you think they are native to North Africa? Do you think they are the indigenous people of North Africa? Because there is a place in the world called Arabia where Arabs come from. And there are Arabs all over North Africa in ruling positions in Arabic Islamic countries. Arabic is the language for many of those countries. So, should those Arabic countries give back the country to their real owners? And when they do that, then they could probably start to talk about who are the real owners for the Levant area where Palestine is there. And if we're talking about real owners going back to history, it still wouldn't be Arabs, it would be Canaanites, if you could find any of those. Yo, hey Ronnie. Anybody on the inside waiting to jump in? It's a Thursday, so it's Thursday Talks where we're just talking, we're chilling, we're talking on a Thursday. Make sure you hit that like button, double tap that screen over there. On TikTok, hit the like button. On Instagram, like it over on YouTube if you are viewing this on repeat. If you are on TikTok or Instagram, feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel, Nathan Spring, over there, so you could catch all of the lives on repeat. A lot of what we are talking about right now was said already in a previous live on Tuesday, where we discussed this with 3 people who were more pro-Palestine in the end of that. You could take in all of that discussion over on my YouTube channel. That's like Spain. That's like asking Spain to give back the treasures, but that's another story. Yeah, I mean, we enter the world in the position it's at. History has elapsed. The Europeans already came to the New World. The Europeans already conquered a lot of the natives. Cortez already conquered the Aztecs. The what was the Inca guy name already did them. The Mayans already gone. What do you want to do about that now? What do you think about people celebrating terrorist acts in Israel? Unsurprising. You're talking about Arabic countries, but it's about atrocities in Gaza and Israeli occupation. Stay focused, my guy. You're not listening, Mikhail. You aren't listening one bit. There's Arabic occupation in all of the Middle East and all of North Africa. How can Arabs be upset about Jews occupying the only spot in the entire world that they consider a Jewish state, while there are Arabic Muslim countries all over the Middle East and North Africa that they have occupied already? Where is the sense in that? Where is the parity? And as for atrocities, I cannot do the atrocity measuring business where you attempt to see if a baby dying in Palestine is one more cruel than dying in Israel. That's a very difficult thing to attempt to do. But there is a difference, because even if you say the Israelis are killing civilians, the Israelis defend that by saying they are not targeting civilians. Hamas places their military infrastructure around civilian infrastructure for the exact purpose of making it that Israel has to kill civilians to attack them. Does that make Israel cruel, or does that make Hamas hating Palestinians? Hamas hates their own people, if that is true. And Hamas shows off, glorifies, enjoys targeting civilians. So there's a difference between killing civilians and targeting civilians. Both ways civilians end up dead. Both ways innocent people are killed in something that they shouldn't die in, and it's not their fault, but that's life. That's the life we live on this earth. Fair is not in that equation there. But if you're looking at this from an attempt at a moral point of view, there is a difference between targeting civilians and killing civilians. There is that difference. What do you think of the call for tomorrow, the day of anger and day of jihad? I think it's interesting that the leader of Hamas is sitting in a palace in Qatar, telling Hamas militia to go on suicide missions inside of Israel that cause bombings on families inside of Gaza, while his family is safe inside of a palace in Qatar. Tell me that Hamas doesn't hate Palestine. Hamas was created by Israel to delegitimize the Palestinian struggle in the 1980s. Mikhail, I said that 2 days ago. I know. Hamas manifesto, their mandate is to destroy Jews, yes. When Israel are retaliating, they announced to Palestinian civilians to leave the area, yes. They did announce, they released a statement to all Palestinian civilians to leave the area. And then Hamas, which is the government of Gaza, keep this in mind, Hamas is the government in Gaza. Hamas is PNM. All right? Hamas said, don't leave. Don't allow them to fearmonger you into leaving. Stay right here. And the people that live and reside in this very Jewish state, in fact, not the true Jews, we're not getting into that again. We already went through that last day. No, they are not just the, even if you are attempting to say that Ashkenazi Jews are not the true Jews, it's not only Ashkenazi Jews that are in Israel. There are Jews from all over the Middle East that came to Israel. There are African Jews in Israel. There are Ethiopian Jews in Israel, a significant contingent. But you don't know it but you don't find it interesting that you as a black man is supporting the only apartheid regime. No, I don't find it interesting that I as a black man anything. Because I don't know what I as a black man have to do with Palestinians. You think the Arabs love black people? The Arabs castrated your ancestors and dragged them into slavery across the desert. You're talking about you as a black man. It's very strange that you as a black man support the very people and religion that abused and enslaved your people. I find that strange too. And Israel is not apartheid, as Jackie Jones Carter rightfully says. There are Arab Israelis. There are many Arab Israelis that they are elected into the Knesset. They have positions in the Supreme Court in Israel. They are not second-class citizens in Israel. They do not want to live under Hamas. You know, you could go and look at interviews of Arab Israelis being asked whether they want to live under Hamas or not. And they tell you. The UN reports on the Human Rights Watch is humorous because the leader of the Human Rights Watch in the UN was the Saudis when they didn't allow women to drive cars. The Arab countries have a significant contingent in the Human Rights Watch, and they always vote against Israel, the one Jewish state among all of them. So I'm not buying that. All religions did that. Yes, that was kind of my point. Africans do that now to their own people in Africa. Still correct. Since you're playing that nonsense, look up Israel sterilizing Ethiopian Jewish refugees in the 80s. I have no doubt that there were atrocities that occurred, and there were some atrocities that did occur among Israelis to Jews. My point wasn't that Israelis love Africans. That wasn't my point. My point was you can't try to draw some kind of African solidarity amongst this conflict because there isn't one. The attempt there is the attempt to drag Africans and black people into all left-wing causes. Like if we are the poster children for communism and socialism. Brainwashing is real? Of course it is. Look up Israel putting African refugees in concentration camps in Negev Desert in 2010s. Good night, BCE. Welcome back. Michelle, because it's an attempt to get solidarity. It's a solidarity attempt. It's a solidarity attempt. To draw parallels between the Palestinians and other oppressed people. The Palestinians are a minority group and the Israelis are the majorities hurting them. But it makes no sense because if you look at the entire region, it's an entire Arab region with a little spattering of Jews. It really doesn't line up to logic. And nearly everyone you hear defend this, there are different groups of defenders. There's the Muslim solidarity defenders, which I understand. Most Muslims all around the world generally are pro-Palestine for obvious reason. There's a religious connection there. So if you are a Muslim, think about it a little deeper. Why are you pro-Palestine? Is it just being taught this religiously? There's that side. There's also the socialist side, where you'd find most communists are pro-Palestine, such as our labor leader, the head of MSG, jumped out his whole body when Hamas attacked Israel to say he stands with Palestine. Like, who asked you? Who asked you? So there's the communist side of support. Okay, you could say it's not about religion if you want, BC, but I'm talking about things I see. But I don't think his support was based on that because he spoke about MSG. It's a base upon the solidarity among left-wing groups. So in the United States, the Democratic Socialist parties all support Palestine. They're pro-Palestine. The BLM came out to be pro-Palestine. They came out as pro-Palestine, BLM, because by and large they are more left-wing. Are you not listening to the words I am saying, BCE? am not pro-Israel. I am not pro-Israel at all. BC, I am outlining different groups. I didn't say only Muslims. I said Muslims, and then I said leftists, the communists, because they have that solidarity with the oppressed around the world. That's the other side of that group. And then, yes, I am. Of course I am, because to me, the logic is clear. The logic is obvious. What I would want you to tell me, Mikhail, is what do you propose Israel do? What's your proposal for Israel? What's your solution? How do they solve that? How? Yes, I was getting to that, BCE. I was getting to that, then I was sidelined. There are a certain group of Jews, heavily Orthodox Jews, a certain heavily Orthodox group of Jews that are anti-Israel to anti the state of Israel, anti-Zionist. That's not a significant contingent, but they are very vocal and they are there. And then the next group, Nicholas, we're talking about the same thing. And then the next group, the KKK, the white supremacists, the neo-Nazis. Neo-Nazis are significantly anti-Israel because Nazis since the original hated Jews. They hate Jews because they find that Jews have done a lot of evil things to the white people, to the white Christians, and they think that the Jews are attempting to replace them with an underhanded mission, so they hate the Jews. So there's a contingent, but most people exist within those contingents. The Muslim support, the communist support, the Orthodox Jew support, or the Nazi support. That's the four groups. And those four groups, the reasonings are usually emotional. I am still trying to find somebody to explain to me how you are going to solve this. Mikhail says to live under a democratic society. Who says they want democracy? Did the Palestinians tell you they want democracy? Palestine don't want a democratic society. All they want is for Israel not to exist. Exactly. Who tells you they want a democracy? Are there any Arabic democracies around in the Middle East? Remove power from Israel, Nicholas says. What do you think happens if you remove power? What do you think happens if you remove power from Israel? What do you think happens? If Israel removes the wall, removes the Iron Dome, bear in mind, they have the Iron Dome that shoots down hundreds of rockets daily. Those rockets without the Iron Dome land inside of Israel, killing people. So, what would you have? No, I'm asking the people who are saying that Israel is so evil and bad, what do you think they should do? If you were the leader of Israel and you had to lead Israel into the right moral way, what should they do? Exactly, done, leave, and so the only Jewish nation should leave and cease to exist for the 20th Arab nation to form, and that is justice, done. Call it Zionist, fine. The only Zionist, call it Zionist, the only Zionist nation that exists need to fold up and be destroyed for another Arabic nation to be formed that was never there before. A new Arabic nation is formed, and that's justice. Palestine is the region. If you're asking about the Arabs who live in Palestine, I will say that there's a much wider Arabia that exists. There are Arab nations surrounding Israel on all sides. There are Arab nations that welcome Arabs from as far as Afghanistan in Asia till Morocco in Africa. Palestine was not a country, BC. Stop it. Palestine was never a country. Never, ever a country before. The first time there was a government in Palestine was in 93. When was Palestine founded, BCE? When was the country of Palestine founded? Then why the Jewish people coming back from Europe have Palestinian passports? They had a passport to reach into the district. It was not a goodness grief. You all are acting like you all don't know history. You all don't know history. The British controlled the land. The city of David is proof that Israel belongs to Israel according to British rules. Of course, it was according to British rules, yes. Palestine didn't have a state. Israel existed long before Rome was a thing, yes. No, you don't come to other land and try take over. Well, actually, done, that's what happens everywhere. That's what the Arabs did. That was the point I was making initially. So how could you say that the Jews cannot come to somebody else's land and take over, and that's why they should give back the land to the Arabs, while the Arabs belong in Arabia, but there are Arabs all across the Middle East, all the way into North Africa? So if you are using the reasoning that you cannot take someone else's land, then all the Arabs need to leave North Africa, need to leave the Levant, and return to Arabia and stay only in Arabia. You are talking British propaganda. Okay, and I could say you're talking Islamic Arabic propaganda, but you are not refuting any of the things I've said. I'm waiting for one of you to jump in to refute it. BCE. When people came in and joined the live last day, no one refuted any of my facts with something different proving it otherwise. Who gave Britain the power to give land that's not their own? Well, do you know, Mikhail, it might shock you. Do you know Britain gave us this land too? Britain gave us this land too. The Palestinians are culturally Arab but indigenous to the land? No, they are not. Go ask Mikhail, you would insult, I dare you to go and tell a Palestinian they are not genetically, ethnically Arabs. You go tell them that. You go tell them that. Go tell them that. You are a minority in UK, okay. My brother, yes, Abu Saif, Trinidad was named Kyrie before Columbus. He's talking about might makes right. He does not care. Britain did not. Eric Williams took it. Eric Williams took it. Eric Williams took it. Right. Eric Williams took Trinidad from the British. Right. That's what happened. Sure. And you go to Tel Aviv and see how they see you. I could assure you, I would prefer go to Tel Aviv than most areas in Arabia. And you too. It's strange. It's strange to me. Many of the supporters of these things would prefer to go to Israel than any of those other countries. You ask the Arabs in Israel whether they prefer to live in their surveys on this. Go read one of these surveys. And if you're worried it's white man propaganda, go find a Muslim who did the survey, who went and they would arrest you on the spot. BC, you do know that Trinidadians go to Israel on a pilgrimage nearly every year. 98.1, the gospel station, they organize a pilgrimage where Trinidadians go nearly every year, and they aren't arrested for entering Israel. So you justify the destruction of people because you perceive their prejudice. Nicholas, I'm glad you're here because you sent me a lot of videos. I saw the liberal Jewish woman, Nicholas, that was saying that the Jews do not deserve an ethno-religious state, which I found ironic, seeing that what they want to do is leave another Arabic ethno-religious state for Arabs. So how could you say the Jews do not deserve one, they cannot get one, while giving another one to the Arabs? Nicholas? You there?
Man caught one way.
All right.
You're saying that as if. You're saying that as if. Jesus Christ. You're saying that as if they weren't pushed. As if Hamas wasn't pushed to be some crazy extremist people who want. That's sure the majority of Palestinians would love to live peacefully.
Nicholas, that is not the question I asked.
Where did Jews have to live before Israel? No, sorry, you cut out there.
All right, well,
I thought that's where I'm sorry.
Oh, what I'm asking is I saw the video where the liberal Jewish woman was saying we live in a world where it's diverse, so no one gets to have an ethno state. But you're saying that while arguing for Arabs to have another ethno state in the Middle East that they are already surrounded with. So how could you say that?
Who's arguing that for Arabs to have an ethno state?
But if the Israeli, what do you think the Palestinians mean when they say Palestine will be free from the river to the sea? What do you think Hamas means in their charter when they say they will never negotiate with Israel and their goal is to push Israel into the sea?
Everyone from the comments, what do they think the Palestinians mean by that? Everybody from the comments, what do you think they mean by that?
Well, they mean they want the land for themselves. That's pretty much what it means.
Because, and I could say that, Nicholas, because two-state solutions were offered in 1948, two-state solutions were offered in 1960, two-state solutions were offered right through. I mean, the guy last day was saying that there were concessions in these two-state solutions that the Palestinians found unfair. Okay, but there were two-state solutions and they did not want that. So, what do you propose, Nicholas? How does Israel survive as a country with the Arabs that want to take over their country? How does that happen?
I don't think people really read history that much.
And XG Black comes again. Yes, Mikhail, I saw that too. That's the British. The British had the power of many different lands. And if the British did it in another land, it would have been the same argument somewhere else. But XG Black says that it was always unjust because these were the conquerors that came to the land. What do you think the Arabs were? You know who is a fierce pro-Israel supporter right now? India. The Indian nationalists, the Hindu Indian nationalists are fiercely pro-Israel. Do you know why? Because there's significant friction between the Hindu nationalists and the Islamic groups in India. Do you know where that aggravation came from? When the Arab Muslims repeatedly attempted to conquer India, as they did some of, the Arabs conquered too. Stop saying the Arabs, you are Islam. How is Islamic? How is Islamophobic to say the Arabs? Mikhail, hush.
Literally,
go to sleep.
Arabs are conquering people. Like the whole point, the Crusades was literally Christians and Muslims, right? And the fact is this: do you know how much caliphate was created during the period of before even Egypt became an Arab republic, which it is right now, right? We're talking about an African country, by the way.
I have being one come back because I can't mute.
thing about it is this: is Arab people have been conquering for a long time. That's why they have the land they have now. You see, what's interesting is this, right? Is that's what happens when you conquer people. You conquer them, you take their land, their resources. That's called the spoils of war. If we saying that Israel should give by people their land, then I am an African nationalist. I want all the Arabs out of North Africa give back all the people their land. Egypt is not the Arab zone, but yet the Arab government is Egypt, Morocco, Libya, all the countries, right? It's funny. It's funny here because every single Arab leader that has ever been in government have always been for an Arab state, and very Islamic too. Even Gaddafi wanted an Arab Union to take place in North Africa and all over the Arab world. So I'm confused here by the statements being made. Do you all know? You know what's funny here, Nathan, is that people don't understand the sheer history of Jewish people. Jewish people have been taking on oppression from every side of every corner of the planet. So if Israel is to concede to Palestine, you all feel what? The Palestinian government is about to treat Jewish people normal and nice, democratically, fair, liberally. That's not how it works. That's how it never works. It's the same way how right now the Taliban have Afghanistan under their rule, and now Afghanistan is called an emirate, where human rights violations taking place rampantly. So I'm confused as to where we believe that, all of a sudden peace could be brokered between people who have been fighting for land for thousands of years.
Who's been comparing those two between that and Palestine?
What do you mean?
Please don't compare that specific terrorist group with all of Palestine.
Oh.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. That's what I'm not saying. Hamas is not all of Palestine. And Hamas is really in one specific place at the present moment in a thing. But this is the problem. People, and I said this on Twitter today, that people want to use the ideology to claim that the entire state of Palestine wants to eradicate Israel off the face of the map, which is not true. It's just Hamas and Hezbollah. But the thing about it is that people outside of this conflict that's going on right in Levant, using the left to make these kind of generalizations that the whole of Israel wanted to eradicate Palestine, because that's what left-wing people like to do. The whole of Israel just want to eradicate Palestine or push them into the water or something. That's not true, because Israel have been trying to make peace with Palestinians long time, since what, 1948, 49? Please.
Well, just now.
They call the concentration camp because
I saw some people talking about whether we could go back to Africa and just start claiming that. As I said previously on Tuesday, was it? There has been that happened. The US gave land in Liberia to freed American slaves. Gave land that wasn't theirs to give. Like, to say that the British didn't have the land to give, you're talking ignorantly of history. Yes, I don't like the fact that Europeans separated Africa and divided it up according to their view. Okay, but I still call Nigeria, Nigeria. I still call South Africa, South Africa, and the Ivory Coast, the Ivory Coast. That is the reality we live in. That is how every country has been formed. There's no country on earth that you could look at and look through their history and say they are the just, fair country. That's a good way for a country to form. Which one of those countries? That's why I've been making the point that for me, it seems very strange that the Arabs who did the conquering colonization project, The Arabs did it. That land did not belong to Arabs. And you could call me anti-Arab racist, which is a ridiculous concept. But you could call me that if you want. I'm talking historical fact. The Arabs did conquest, imperialism, and colonialism too. They colonized people. And you're telling me that people who are saying we are the original inhabitants of this land, they must leave it to the people who conquered it. You know what that's, and I drew this example. You know what it's like? Imagine the United States existed where it did, and Americans were there. And somehow the Cherokee were able to petition King George before US got their freedom when Britain ruled the United States. They were able to petition King George and tell him, we want a Cherokee nation. And King George gave them a Cherokee nation. What you gonna do about that as an American? You may not like it. Andre Jabloom.
It's funny because Liberia was literally an apartheid state. Like, Liberia was literally an apartheid state. Liberia is a created country by the Colonization Society of America. They place Afro-Americans and Afro-Caribbeans, and the Afro-Americans, Afro-Caribbeans literally made the indigenous people
slaves,
as citizens.
Yeah.
They pillaged the people. Don't tell me about history. I know history. Literally, the same people who were oppressed in America came across to Liberia and oppressed the people on their land. No. Israel don't even come close to what Liberia was
They
in
have
the beginning.
resources. They come with resources from America as well to help
Yes, they did.
them as well.
Yes.
Yes, it did.
Yes, they did.
Exactly.
Yes, it did. No, but Nicholas, you're not understanding. Liberia, no, Israel. Listen.
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
Yeah, we hear you. Yeah. Nicholas, here's the thing. Israel.
Just now, as you all are building that up before it scrolls too far. Riyad Ramsrup, you see that idea? These dudes would be justifying that, and we're talking about 2020. Humans didn't change. It's a lie. More people died in the 20th century than all of those previously. So the idea that somehow humans now we are above human nature. We don't do those normal human things anymore. we are so far advanced from. It's ridiculous. It's a lie. That's the bait they feed you to chain you up. That's not true. Humans still exist like that. That is still to this day how countries are formed. That's still to this day what Russia is doing. And it seems kind of ridiculous to me that people would attempt to conquer land and then draw a line and say, well, there's no more conquest here. How does that work? XG, wrong is wrong. We can't continue down a wrong road in life no matter what happens. Well, XG Black, that's the point I was making about the Arabs, as it seems to offend Mikhail so much, about the Arabs conquering and doing colonization. So the Arabs conquered the region. So if we cannot persist in wrongdoing, then the Arabs shouldn't be in Palestine either. We are supposed to be looking for the Canaanites, and we have to get the Arabs out of Egypt. Get those Nubians back in there. Get the Arabs out of all of North Africa. Get only the North Africans, the Moors and the Berbers. What are Arabs doing in North Africa? Mikhail, not Mikhail.
That's the funny thing, because here's the thing.
Blessed night, Cheryl Valley.
What was your thoughts about the video? Sorry.
What were my thoughts about the video?
The video of the girl who said nobody is particularly owned an ethno state. No people is owned an ethno state.
It is.
What was it called?
It is ridiculous because it's not true, and it seems ridiculous to argue that the Jews cannot have an ethno state because we live in a diverse world, while asking them to relinquish the land to another ethno state that is surrounded by other ethno states.
Okay.
Oh, it's called empire, Mikhail says. Mikhail says it's called empire. So empire is a good thing when it's Arabic. The Arabic empires were good then. Also, you do not get to commit genocide to have a country in 2023. The Palestinian population has tripled in size, I think, over the last 30 years. So if it's genocide, you see, some things don't make sense to me. You say it's an open-air prison that the Jews have total control over, and they're genociding the people. The Jews are very bad at genocide if that's the case, because the population is growing.
Exactly.
They
control 20% of the water, Nicholas. Nicholas?
The people are children. Half of the people are children. That's not a normal population rate. That's not normal. That's not what's supposed to happen. That's not what's supposed to be there.
Okay. And
You realize that, right? Do you realize that something had to happen, that people had to die for that to be happen, that the birth rate or the death rate?
How do the people die? How do the people die?
By phosphorus, biochemical,
I was going to say something bad, I'll choke. I can just say something fast. It's the... Sorry, I don't want to go too harsh.
Yeah.
This is not my fault, really. I'm not a historian, but when people make these kind of arguments and then they make it so one-sided, like, it's okay if Palestine attacks Israel, but Israel shouldn't do anything. Israel should just go away and let Palestine do what they have to do because it was their land.
Don't expect them not to do anything. We think they're wrong.
Just hold on for a point. Think about it this way, right? Lands have been passed on and on and on. It's only like probably in the last 100 years or so. Well, probably more than that. Probably 1,000 years or so. People were like, it's a bad thing to take people land.
That was only probably the last 50 years, really and truly. Well, people always thought so, but they didn't enforce it.
But they didn't enforce it, right? So you can't return land because they keep talking about, look, the Indians in America, the white people come and they take their land. But who did the Indians fight for that land? Think about it. You think they ready for this? They probably fight some Carib or some Arawak, and then they probably fight somebody who we don't even know and wipe out that whole piece, that whole
You right now and stop talking in real hypotheticals. What? No, that's not happening. That's not before the indigenous people of the Americas, before the Caribs and Arawaks.
What?
Excuse me?
Are you talking about people before Indians in the land of India? Which one are you talking about?
Right, exactly the point. I'm talking about the Indians, the American Indians, that weren't the indigenous people to America. They probably had to fight somebody to get that land too.
Well,
What you talking about? Open a history book.
Nicholas, ease up. Nicholas, you had to ease up and open a history book because the natives fought the natives in the US mainland over and over and over. There has been decimation of native populations. There have been tribes that were extinct before the Europeans even came to the New World. The natives fought the natives.
Natives fought each other.
Yes. That's what I said.
Yeah.
That's what she was saying.
The person talking here is talking about somebody who came before.
Well, you see, wait. You need to understand. Wait. You need to understand what's before and what's after. So, for example, the Aztecs came down late into Central America. When the Aztecs came down, wherever they came down from, history doesn't have it directly recorded. Maybe it was a journeying group from a distant tribe in further North America. They came late, and when they got to Central America, there were already people there, other natives, and they murdered them by the thousands and sacrificed them, ripping out their hearts. People used to think that was European propaganda until with better technology they were able to actually find the bodies with the missing pieces. Yeah, they did that way before the Europeans got there. So that's a common part of history. Someone was just a question I saw someone had before that I wanted to deal with. Why Palestine don't have their own water wells? Well, Palestine has aquifers, as I said before, and they had water pipes. But what happens when you elect a terrorist organization to be your government? They don't govern, they do terror. So instead of getting the water to flow in Palestine, they dug up the water pipes and boasted about retrofitting the water pipes into rocket launchers to rockets at Israel to waste Palestinians limited money for no good reason. Hamas hates Palestinians more than they think Israel hates the Palestinians. Hamas is their destruction.
Okay, let me just end this here because
Israel. Hamas is an reaction to Israel, was made by Israel, and the child of Israel.
I agree.
Arms by Israel.
I agree. Nicholas, wait, Nicholas. There isn't a need for you to tell me that, because in the discussion we had day before, I was the one telling you all this, and one of the guys was saying he don't know about that, he never heard about that. I said this day before, I am fully aware that Hamas was created and funded by Israelis, the Mossad and CIA. I know. But what? So what does that mean? Does that negate away from the fact that I'm saying Hamas hates Palestinians? It's still the same thing. And if you are saying now, if you are a Palestinian, you know Hamas was formed by these outsiders to get negative things done, you would elect these people to rule you?
I just wanted to end here because I did say I was a historian. I was not a historian. So probably I get any people wrong. But Nathan explained what I was saying. I didn't mean like literally who is who, right? But just to say this, who is there now is kind of more important than who was there at the beginning. Because if we are here, as somebody was saying in Venezuela, trying to reclaim Trinidad and Tobago, but we are here now, and we shouldn't have to give up our lands because you owned it before. The important thing is here now. We're talking today. We don't care what happened 1,000 years ago. What happened today is much more important than I think it, because they're getting it in real time. People are dying in real time. Like who died a billion years ago is not really as important. And the future, in the future, when things happen, who died today wouldn't matter. But the present time now really is much more important than what happened in the past. And that is where I kind of wanted to just give. And I just want to say this. I have been listening, and the emotions behind this kind of thing is really telling. Like you're given very, very emotional conversation topic things. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of unfair to fight in a debate with emotions because who the hell can tell you how to feel? But when you're talking like facts, like that's more important. Like give us information, which is why I said join the Discord, send your links, let's go through it. Because I am not into history. History is not my thing. I'll talk politics day and night. But history, I'm a hero, no paper too.
How you could defend Jewish people?
No, but
wow.
See, this is the thing for me, right? Listen, I'm not justifying anything here. The thing about it is the reality of life.
Yes, I am. I am aware of that crisis. Go ahead.
If America want to come and blockade Trinidad now and turn it into like a Puerto Rico, what we could do? Not a thing. Your feel go what? Walk up in a military man face and say, you don't own the land. The land is not yours. They have not to do anything. They blockade.
Just a little pause before you continue. XG Black, who beg who to help them? Show me the proof of anybody begging anybody. Who needed to beg anybody when the British controlled the land? Alright, go ahead, Trini Hotel.
That's the funny thing, right? Because the funny thing is Britain owned the land. Well, the thing is the Ottoman Empire owned the land, and the Ottoman Empire was, for the most part Arabic, Islamic. For the most part it was Islamic, right? So at that point in time it was what? Majority Islamic with Christians and some Jews, right? And the thing is this, the Ottoman Empire fell, and somehow, some way, here comes swooping in the European powers, taking up the land. And listen, the British Empire was the largest empire on the face of the planet.
The empire on which the sun doesn't set. You all know what that means? That means they controlled land all around the world so much that at some point in time it was always daylight.
This is the funny thing, Nathan, is exactly because they're going from quite America straight back to China. And you know what's funny is this, is that I was watching a piece of history, right? The British literally give back Hong Kong to China.
Yeah.
In like what? When was it, 90s?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is this, it wasn't their land to give back, but they had it was theirs. They occupied it. And they give it back to the people who are rightfully there. And look, right now, mainland China is stomping their foot on Hong Kong as an administrative region. You know, this is funny stuff, right?
This is life.
The funny stuff, it's life, right? The British was our oppressor, and they give it back to a more gruesome oppressor that oppressing their own people on a little small island called Hong Kong. So the funny thing of life is that nobody justifies anything. I don't think that China needs to be oppressing Taiwan or needs to be oppressing Hong Kong or the Israelis need to be doing what they're doing. But the point about it is this, is people fight for what they believe in, people fight for land, and that's how it goes. Because the thing is, if we was to even say that, okay, give back land to people, is all Trinidad getting ready to pick up their bags and leave? 1.4, because there's a small population of indigenous people here, very small. Are we going to pick up our bags and leave to go where? Africa? Is the Indians here about to go back to India?
They don't want us. I could tell you wherever you want to go, they don't want us. And that's just the reality. This has always been a problem, you know. Mass migration was very likely what brought the Bronze Age pinnacle to a crash. I like history, so that's why I talk about it. Mass immigration very likely was partly to blame for the fall of Rome, because they theorized that the reason many of the barbarians came crushing down on Rome is because there was migration from further north and further east. Migration has been a common part. People take over. Fighting for land is a common human. Listen, it's not just your uncles and your grands and them fight for land. It has been a thing in human history common throughout. I guess the Americans gave back Afghanistan to the Taliban. That was a funny one, Andre. That was a funny one. Someone talking about the reality that the Jews were possibly going to be given land in Uganda. I saw in Kenya, also other parts in Africa. And that's true, the British owned the land. And again, this isn't something strange, because the British gave Uganda, which is a cut-out piece of land, to an administrative group. They who decided who would control this cutout that they drew. It was always the British to give. You don't like that it was the British to give, but it was, because they gave it. You could say that what is inside of the British Museum is stolen stuff, but it is theirs. They have it.
What are we talking about here? I want to clarify on three ways.
Okay.
What is going to happen? What should happen from right now? From right this moment, what should happen from right now? What is going to happen? And what should have happened? Which one of these are we talking about? Because I find we going back and forth between all three things. What happened? What should have happened before? What happened right now? What should happen right now? And
the main thing I'm interested in hearing is what should happen right now.
I would love to know what should happen right now. should the Israel state give back what land they believe is the Palestine zone to Palestine? Let's hear it. I'd love to hear it.
Give back a great bit of land, provide housing, proper housing, provide medical supplies. They're not going to do that. But that is what they should do.
Listen.
Why? Wait. Why?
To the Palestinian people.
Why?
Why not? No, why not?
Because you don't just give away housing to people for no reason. That costs money. Listen. I don't know how you think governments make money, because that sounds kind of left wing to me. I don't know how you think governments make money, but that is collecting money from Jews and giving it away. Why would Jews give away their labor? Because money is labor. Why would they? Why?
Well, for me, from my perspective,
Yeah.
for peace. Yeah, from my perspective, for peace.
We have done
But,
what should
can I
the
just
Nazi have done with the Jews in the concentration camps? What should they have done?
They should have let them go and not taken their land and money in the first place. They shouldn't have given. The Jews weren't asking for housing, and free anything. They were asking to be left alone. And here's the thing.
Right. Okay.
Gaza was left alone. Riyadh, go ahead.
Jumping off of that point, right?
Just now, Nico. Riyadh, go in.
From Palestinians.
Yeah, let me just go for a quick second. I wouldn't be long. I just wanted to say something, right? We're having this conversation about Palestine, and the focus is on Gaza, but there's also the West Bank,
Yes, I know.
Jerusalem as well.
Yes.
And we're talking about land, and we talk about the crimes that happen against the Palestinian people and in Gaza, and we ignoring the expansions in the West Bank of the settlements on Palestinian land. So we're talking about what land they should give. They isn't for them to give. It was Palestinian lands according to the 1948 borders or the 1967 borders.
But those borders were lost due to the Arabs attacking Israel. So they were won in a just conquest.
So you have the 1948 borders and 1967 borders.
Right.
Those borders are still 1967 borders are still recognized by the UN.
Right. You could go to the 67 borders, but you can't go back to the 48 borders. You attacked them and lost.
Regardless, right? So you have the East Jerusalem, you have the West Bank, and you have Gaza. So you're talking about what land they should have. Let's just start there, the 1967 borders, right? The purpose, I guess, the question that I have for you, because I've been listening to this conversation, and we're talking about what should the conversation is. They're doing it because everybody else has done it before in the past, about expansion, about taking land and stuff like that. But we're not talking about, is it ethical? Is it right? Is it just? As human beings, would we like this to happen to us? There's no empathy in the conversation that we're having for the Palestinian people and the people of Gaza and the 75 years of occupation and apartheid, from my perspective, of what they have to live through. If we were born in Gaza, how would we want the world to perceive us, right? You talk about the Gaza population, and you talk about voting for Hamas. If 47% of the population are under the age of 18, and the last election was held in 2005, they would have never been allowed to vote for Hamas, right? And if the elections were held in 2005, the majority of the population would not even have been voting age.
Whose fault is that, Israel or Palestine's, that they haven't held elections since 2005?
Actually, that election in 2004 was sanctioned by the U.S. government, the Bush administration, and Israel at the time. Fatah was a party in power at the time, and they were in party for a long time. They were the party in power for a long time. And because that election, like with most things, people got fed up with corruption and everything like that. The people in Palestine who were the least radical group in the Middle East, right? They voted for change. We do that sometimes. Sometimes we vote for the UNC.
Yes.
We get fed up with the PNL.
Yes.
Right? And then it turned out that they turned into Hamas. The first rockets that were fired into Israel was in 2004. Happened to the 50-odd years before that. Why would the Palestinians deny the opportunity to have a real agreement given to them so that they could form their own country?
But agreements were offered. They didn't like the terms of the agreements.
I know the 5 agreements. The 5 agreements that were offered, right? None of them were real agreements. They did not include East Jerusalem, right? They did not include the holy sites that are important to to the Palestinian people.
Was it that they didn't include the holy sites, or was it because they didn't have the right to return?
Also the right to return, right? An American Jew who was born in America, never been to Israel.
Yeah, well, that's what an ethno-state is. I know that, Riyadh. And here's the thing. I have no qualms about calling the Israel state basically an ethno-state. I have no qualms about that. It basically is. And for me, though, if the Palestinians are Arabs, and they call themselves Arabs. Arabs are from Arabia. How can you make...
Okay, this is a semantic argument, right? So let's just say, actually, well, I could tell you then, right? The majority of our Muslim people who are Palestinian originally ancestors from the Jewish population that lived there previously and who converted during the Ottoman Empire. So technically, they have more of a blood right to that land than the European Jews who came to occupy Israel.
Very, very correct.
Maybe some of them are, but they are...
The majority of them.
They are significant...
They could trace their ancestry back to thousands of years there.
Yes, I know. And here's the thing. Just now, Riyadh and I, Riyadh and I are conversing here. The thing is, the Israelis say the same thing. My point on that isn't about the blood type and on that. It's about conquest. If we are saying conquest is unfair, then all of the previous Arab conquests that spread Islam throughout the Middle East and North Africa. I hope you are not one that denies that the Arabs did conquest.
What happens in a religious conquest, right? What the indigenous population usually have to contribute to the religion?
No, we cannot stop what already happened. We can stop.
Well, Nicholas, you need wait, Nicholas, wait. You need to understand we are building the conversation. That's what we were speaking about. We were speaking about this, and it went back to the history because the point he is making is that it was the reason this is unjust now, the reason that the Israelis must leave or leave it to the Palestinians mostly, is because they came into the situation unjustly. They should not have come here. Well, if that is the claim on why it is unjust now, then we need to get to the base of that claim. That's why we are talking about that.
I can make the argument, right? I can agree. Let's say it happened, right? We all agree that the British controlled the land, and we could all agree the British were horrible people who did shitty things in Africa and how they divided land there, divide and conquer. They used that between tribes, and they set up the borders in a way that created Rwanda genocide and so on. Same thing happened in India.
In India, yes.
Yes, there was animosity between the Pakistani Muslims and the Indian Hindus, but they very well played on that division in order to divide and conquer because they had a smaller population, so they had to rule using divide and conquer.
Correct.
And that has lasting impacts all over the world. You can agree with that. So let's say the Jews who are there and you want to have a two-state solution, right? And we go back to the 67 borders. Can Palestine have that land? Can they control their own airspace? Would they be allowed to have their own water supply? Would they be able to have access to the sea? Would they be under surveillance? Would they be allowed to form their own military?
Well, here's the answer to that. Would they still think that the Jews should not be there? If they go... Wait, let me finish. Yeah. If they go back to the 67 agreement and Palestine gets their place, would they stop attacking the Jews? Do you think they would?
The problem is the same argument that they made against ending slavery. The argument that they made against is always with oppression. What would the oppressors do if they were given the same rights as us? Would they do the same thing to us? That has always been the question.
That was
just now. That made against ending apartheid in South Africa.
That's not the argument I am making, because this isn't the same thing as slavery, and it is not the same thing as apartheid, because the Arabs who are in Palestine have a history with Israel. When Israel was given that land, as you say, be that as it may, they attacked them within a week. That was before any real oppression from the state of Israel could have existed. The state of Israel existed for all of 6 days. Well, less than 6 days.
Because of the partition. Because of how the land was partitioned.
Exactly. And that was since the 48 partition. So if it's the 67 partition, do you think that they would accept that now?
Sure, no, they would accept it.
Why?
Because it's the reality of the situation. Back in 48, right? The partition was done in a way. The main issue with the land in Israel, Palestine, whatever you want to call it, is that limited arable land, right? And also, when the partition was made, there was about 750,000 Palestinians or Arabs,
that were removed from their land.
250,000 Jews, yet the partition was on half and half because they anticipated the migration of Jews from Europe. As a Palestinian, if it is that you're told that you have to give up your home in your nice area with your arable land that you're planting crops on, and you have to go and live in the desert, the Sinai, right? How would you feel about that? Also, we are from a former colony.
Yeah.
Our parents are probably of the age where they lived under the British rule, right? They had their houses, they had their land. They were British citizens. These Palestinians, they were British citizens. They had rights in that land as people who were under British rule. That is something that you have forgotten in your understanding of the situation.
But I understand that, and I understand the British made promises to them, but it was on the British to change or make those promises. To the victor goes the spoils. I understand that. I am not saying the British did something good, but it is done.
You keep coming back to this.
Nicholas, you ease me up with your emotions now by Larry and me talk logic.
It's not about emotions. The UN was formed because of this argument. There's a reason why the US can't just go and take Afghanistan.
True.
Even though they conquered it, supposedly they conquered it. I mean, actually, the Taliban will have a say about that. But the reason why that they didn't take it is because under the UN and international law, the victor does not get the spoils. They don't get to keep the land. The USSR didn't get to keep Germany, right? That's not what happens in post World War II, right? Unless it is that there is someone who is going against international law.
And that is my whole point. International law is a joke. That's the reason there is international law that is the way it is because the victors were the United States, and they decided basically how the international law goes. That's why they don't generally upkeep with the international law. The United States, it's supposed to be illegal for them to start a war without going through their Congress, and they have done it continuously for the last 30-40 years. It doesn't matter that...
The Invading Hague Act prevents them from being accountable to the international law, and they also veto any UN resolution against Israel to make them accountable for their war crimes. So yeah, I agree with you, but the point is how it is that we're supposed to view the situation as human beings,
right?
Not necessarily how saying, this is how it is. Yes, we could obviously see the situation, we could obviously see the injustice of the situation, but as human beings, we're supposed to call out the injustice of the situation.
And this is where I get back to the point that Nicholas doesn't like, speaking about the history, that the people in all of those areas are conquerors. And I find it just strange to decide at some arbitrary point, we draw the line here, we conquered this land maybe from your ancestors, you say you want it back, but no more conquest here. I am saying no one is going to stand up for that. I can tell you the point. I can tell you the point. The point is World War II. After World War II, people saw the atrocities and the craziness of the Germans and what they were trying to do about invading Europe and the Japanese invading China, and they saw, no, this is not right. We can't allow one country or one person with this idea to do so. Yes, after the UN, we had
American imperialism.
So you're trying to tell me that a rule system created by American imperialism to help American imperialism was actually to stop other people's imperialism?
No, my point is, right, that the genesis of the idea is that it was wrong. So as human beings, we could recognize that was wrong, right? The Americans, they bastardize it, but it doesn't change the root of it, that we as human beings should recognize that it is wrong.
Okay, so Riyadh, now that we recognize,
people recognize that it was wrong.
now that we recognize it is wrong, do previous conquered lands revert to the original owners, or is it just that only after World War II we recognized it's wrong, so it's only conquered lands after that?
I'm saying, right? I'm saying is that we could recognize the inhumanity of it historically, if it is that some people feel like they have to make some reparations for it or whatever, and a country decides collectively that's what they want to do, then that's something, that's a discussion that they could have.
So you don't see how you're saying, and I made this point previously in the night before. I said if I was a Palestinian, I understand fully from their point of view. You could trace your ancestry back to this land. The fact that some people say that thousands of years before their family was here seems irrelevant to me. If my parents, my great grandparents were from this land, to attempt to move me just seems unfair. Whether you could go back 1,000 years, I understand that, but I also try to put myself in a Jewish position, where I am in a Jewish position as a regular Jew, not necessarily the George Soros of the world, or the family with the central banks or whatever. You're trying there. The story of your people is persecution all over the world. Well, that's the story of nearly every people, but that's the story of your people. And you say you have a historical homeland, and you get a chance by these people who run the world, how the world has been run since time immemorial. The Romans, the Greeks, everyone has empire. The British has an empire. They have a corner of their empire that we could scheme and wheel and deal to get it, and we got it. Would I not take it? Of course I would take it. And okay, when I reach there, people tell me, well, my grandparents were here, my great grandparents were here. I'm sorry, but I want a place for my great grandchildren. That has always been the battle of migration. That has always been the battle of migration. Where do I go now? I want somewhere to go.
That's colonization.
Maybe colonization on behalf of the British. I might call it. I cool with that. Okay, who's speaking there? Go ahead.
Because that's just the thing. Nearly every kingdom, empire, or country has been created like that. Like France, the nation, and France, the kingdom, didn't just sprout up of nowhere. It was created through conquest of lands and unifying those lands under one rule, under one crown. So the thing for me is like, that's just how it is, right? Like, here's the thing. No, I'm not arguing for fascism. You see, that's the craziness here. I'm not arguing for fascism, because here's the thing. Here's the thing, right?
It's inevitable. It does what it is. So eventually, like, people are just gonna get more powerful, and they're just gonna take as much as they need. And that's
you know, this is the problem, right? Because right now, we have Americans sitting down in their $70,000 apartments and eating nice whole foods meals and talking about how great China is. But China also wants to colonize the world, and they are doing it through any means necessary, right? Because left-leaning Americans love communism so much that they are willing to let China do away with the rest of the world, take what they want, and say, all hail communism, I'm a Mao. You see, this is the problem. This is the problem I'm having. Yes, China is communist.
China is with some socialism, they have capitalism.
Wait, no. China's economic system is capitalist. How China runs their government and their politics is communist. Do you see how they have their people?
Capitalism is an economic is an economic system. Well, I don't know, understand what you're trying to say.
Well, the battle of communism and capitalism there has to do with no real communism has ever been tried, and I don't like that argument, Riyadh, because China calls themselves communists. What they attempt to do is communism. Now, the reality is, I think real communism cannot be tried because it will not work because it goes against human nature, and that's kind of the point that we're butting up against here. I am talking at least about certain things that are just natural to humans, and you're saying that's not fair and it shouldn't be that way. Okay, I think certain things shouldn't be that way either, and maybe if we're talking in shoulds we would talk about that, but if we're talking in reality we have to deal with reality, and if we're talking in predicting human behavior we have to talk in how humans usually behave. We cannot talk in how we hope humans are going to behave or how humans should behave. We have to talk about human nature.
Well,
So-
I
completely agree with that.
And I think that's why I was asking what we should do up to now. But instead of what will happen, is Israel might just win, get rid of all the Palestinians or shove them into Egypt, and some they'll go be refugees in other places, and Israel go. That's what will likely happen. That's what will likely happen.
Yeah. We can talk about the two-state solution or the one-state solution.
Jewish people have been refugees for thousands of years. So the thing of the matter is this, right? Is, you know what's funny here is that y'all would argue that Jewish people being refugees and being oppressed is wrong, and I'm saying Holocaust and all this thing, but people don't want Israel to exist for Jews. So Jewish people must become refugees once again.
Outside of Israel and inside Israel.
I get that. But what are the Jewish people in Israel supposed to do if they rest down their arms? Like they will become stateless, or they will become refugees. The point of the matter here is no. For me,
what do you think? And if it is that they stop trying to kill Palestinian people, that they want Palestinian people would kill them, or is it that if Palestine
what do you mean?
If Palestine is a state, they would kill the Jews, the Israelis, or the Israelis are killing them.
No, sir. Listen, Palestine or Hamas have been attacking Israel for a long time. No, sir. This is the thing here. Right? This is the thing here. If Israel lays down their arm, because y'all don't separate Israel from the hardline factions, and y'all claim Israel being an apartheid state, and y'all don't claim who is the hardline faction within Israel who pushing forward this nonsense. So no, I will say Palestine for the means of understanding. So the thing about it is this: is no. If Israel lay down their arms, Palestine is not going to say, well, you know, we will rest our arms too. No. That's not how it works in war. War don't operate that way necessarily. That's not how war works.
I just find it very interesting that Riyadh. What's that, Nicholas?
To continue on what will happen.
Oh, well, right before he does that, I just find it interesting because you did answer it, Riyadh. You say attempt to go back to the 67 two-state solution, and you believe if they do that, the Palestinians would no longer attack Israel. I am sorry.
I'm asking what you guys think is the solution. I personally don't think that this two-state solution is viable anymore. But with regards to what Trini Hotep says, I just want to say, Hamas controls Gaza, the PLO controls the West Bank, and Israel controls the East Jerusalem, and all of them have populations of Palestinians.
Right.
So it's not right to say that Hamas is Palestine and Palestine is Hamas, and also we are already established that most of the population in Gaza, which is the only area that Hamas controls, did not vote for Hamas because they weren't even born yet.
Right.
When they came into
I agree, and I established that at the start. You're talking well. I established that at the start of the last time, where a country, a government, and the people are all three different things. The CCP is not China. And China is not all Chinese people also. So yes, there's separation there. And when you're talking, I understand when you're talking, sometimes you just talk about that. So people say Israel is apartheid, and they don't necessarily mean every single Israeli is into that, but they mean Israel by the Israeli government.
No, there are a lot of Israelis who are against the treatment
Yes,
of Palestinians.
there are. And someone was saying the irony is many of the Israelis in something like an EDM music festival that was attacked are actually more so left-wing leaning, who may actually be more favorable to lighter treatment of the Palestinians, which is irony above ironies. But my thing is,
The irony is having an EDM festival next to open air prison. But
I don't consider it an open air prison.
It's a concentration camp at this point. But open air prison is too nice.
You see, if it to be an open air prison, you'd have to say they are prisoners also of Egypt.
no, well, if you understand the politics of the party that's currently in control of Egypt and why the border is closed, and why Egypt needs the permission of Israel when to open that border or to close it, you know? And also Israel controls the checkpoint into that border as well, because Israel believes that they need to control all the goods that comes into Gaza.
Why do they believe that?
Because they believe that Hamas will bring in weapons through the Egyptian border.
Because Hamas brings in weapons through the Egyptian border, right?
I'm not disagreeing with that.
So, if you were Israel, wouldn't you do the same?
No, you're saying that they don't control all the borders. I'm saying that they do. I'm saying that they do.
I am talking. You're talking about controlling the checkpoint. I am talking about just now. I'm talking about controlling the border. A checkpoint is not the same thing as a border, and a checkpoint is not putting you in a prison. All borders have checkpoints, and you wouldn't say people are in a prison because they have to go through a checkpoint before they cross the border.
That's one of the reasons why it's an open air prison. They also control the airspace. They surveil the Gaza, so they tap all calls coming in and out of Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
They control the water supply. They cemented the water wells in Gaza. The water supplies are coming into Gaza, so they have to be dependent on Israel for water.
80% of Gaza's water comes from Egypt, though.
The water that comes into Gaza is not sanitary water. So 70% of the water that comes in is untreated water.
So then whose fault is that when Hamas digs up the pipe to build rockets?
Israel also bombed the desalination plants that were in Gaza. The desalination plant and the one power plant that was in Gaza, and one airport. So, and also Israel controls the airspace and this on the sea border as well.
Yes, and as I've said, when if I was a Palestinian, I may have been fighting, but if I was an Israeli, I would have wanted my government to control all of it too. That's not strange, but still, that is not the definition of an open air prison. It is not. There are hotels in Gaza. Are there open air prisons with hotels?
It's an open air prison. Well, it depends. Okay, I define an open air. Also, they control movement, by the way. So if it is that you're a Palestinian, your movement is controlled in and out of Gaza by Israel.
You mean in and out of Israel?
No, in and out of Gaza.
But where is in and out of Gaza going to?
Gaza itself. Within Gaza itself.
Well, I am talking about what he said. He said in and out of Gaza, but in and out of Gaza is in and out of Israel, not so?
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, because they bombed the airport. So, yeah, you're right. They have to wait until the checkpoint in Egypt is open and then find a way through there and try to leave. Mm-hmm. But they still have to pass through the Israeli checkpoint.
Right, and a country controlling the borders in and out of their own territory isn't a surprising thing.
Again, if it is that you bomb the airport that is in Gaza, and so therefore you allow yourself to be the one that control the movement, then a prison means that you stop the people from or control when people come in.
No, that's not what a prison is. Controlling people's movement is not imprisoning them. Yeah, Michelle?
That is one of the points of being imprisoned. Your movement is controlled. Yeah, it's not condition now. It's not about the condition of your imprisonment. The point of imprisonment is to control your movement. you cannot leave for a period of time. That is what being in prison is.
Yes, but yeah, go ahead, Michelle.
Israel has a history, a very bold history of people attacking and enslaving them. They were given the land, correct? They were attacked when they went in. Good? Do we blame Israel now for the defense mechanisms that they are taking to protect themselves and prevent themselves from total annihilation, which is exactly the aim of Hamas? It is in their literature. So if I was the president of Israel, I would have done exactly the same. Meaning, quote unquote, this open air prison that you're trying to say, you forget Hamas fires rockets all the time. There's a reason why Israel has an Iron Dome. There is a reason for it. So now, if I'm
Gaza doesn't have an Iron Dome of their own, you know.
Why would they?
Because well,
Theon, just now, again with the words genocide has a meaning.
over the last 4 days.
There's no genocide going on in Palestine. Look at the Palestinian population.
500 children and 1,500 people have died in Gaza in the last 4 days.
That's mass death. That still is not the definition of what is genocide, Riyad Ramsar?
No, I'm just gonna say give Israel time.
Okay, what is the definition of genocide?
I'm just gonna say give Israel time.
Okay, what is the definition of genocide?
Give them time and you'll see.
All right.
You know,
And you know what's strange? The definition of genocide is stated in the Hamas charter that they promise they are going to enact on Israel. Interesting.
thank you.
Yeah, they're a terrorist organization.
The definition of genocide.
You know what we had as well? If Israel wanted to destroy Palestine, they could. They could have done it.
No, they're doing it slowly. They're doing it slowly. They understand that whether it is in 100 years or 1,000 years, if they get all of the land, then they're happy with it.
So tell me why, whenever there's an opportunity for a solution, Israel is at the table.
Then they're not. They're not. Even Netanyahu just came out that Netanyahu over the last 10 years has said that he does not support a two-state solution. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Years of being attacked.
After years of being your person, you know.
Let's jump into another point. That's not the point about the before.
All right. Either way, I don't believe, and we went through quite a bit of asking this. I don't believe if they go back to 1967 two-state solution, it would stop the attacks, because in 1967 it didn't stop the attacks. Israel was constantly attacked by the Arab Muslim nations surrounding them because they don't like them. There's religious, ethnic grouses that go back there centuries.
Of course not. That's not the reason. The reason they don't like them is because the Jews have a problem with the Arabs have a problem with Jews before 1948. Before World War II.
They had no problem with Jews before World War II?
I'm asking if they had a problem, like they wanted to annihilate them before World War II.
Not annihilate, but they had a problem with them, yes.
Well, why were Jews and Arabs and Christians living in fairly harmoniously before World War II? There
are still Jews, Christians, and Arabs that live harmoniously in some places right now. There were always some areas better than some, but there was always friction.
This is the point, right? There's a reason.
There's a difference between back then and now.
Right. So there's a reason. The reason was Jews coming into a land, and unjustifiably, if it is that you're the person who your land was being taken away from, you would feel how about it? They're taking your land and giving it to somebody else. They're taking your house and giving it to someone else. And there are Arabs around there seeing their Arab brother or Arab sister lands being taken away from them and being given to someone else. They had a problem with that.
The who?
The Arab brothers and sisters.
All right, okay. Interesting. But just so you know, talking about the history, someone said in perfect peace. When was the first crusade?
Perfect peace, and they said in relative peace.
No, someone in the comments. In the comments. There were crusades. There were crusades fighting in the Middle East. The Middle East has been a hotspot for war and conflict for years. It's not some new something that is only now bursting about. And
So has been Europe, you know.
yeah. So has been Europe. I'm not denying that. But the Middle East has had more and has had a longer history because it has been.
Genocide of the Jews happened in Europe, by the way, not in the Middle East.
What's that?
The genocide or the genocide of the Jews happened.
The attempted genocide happened in Europe, yes. But the Islamic countries and Arabic countries had laws that made Jews and Christians into second-class citizens. You are aware of that, right?
Wait, I just want to say, did you just call the Holocaust an attempted genocide?
What's that?
Did you just call the Holocaust an attempted genocide?
Yeah, it was a genocidal move.
No, did you call it an
Yes, I call it an attempted genocide.
By that definition, nearly no one was ever genocided, and genocide is a mystery thing. The natives were not genocided by that definition.
Are there natives?
Yes. You literally just said there are a few bit of Caribs.
There are a few Caribs. There are a very few Caribs. That's what genocide is attempting to do. Genocide is attempting to exterminate a population. Now, even in the case of the Nazis, and this is getting into some ticklish things here, the Nazis maybe said that their intention wasn't totally to annihilate all the Jews because they kicked them out first. But the reason I say attempted genocide is to get the fair idea that they were attempting to wipe out a population without having wiped out the population.
And one more thing, I would point in the direction of the Holocaust Museum of the 10 steps to genocide for your definition of genocide.
Of the what? Of the what?
Have the most comprehensive.
Of the what?
Steps to genocide.
10 steps.
Holocaust Museum.
10 steps what? What's the word? What's the words? 10 steps to genocide. Not the 10 steps of genocide. So all 10 steps are not genocide.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. What is your point?
I made my point already. That's my point made there. Nicholas.
And what? Do you realize an ongoing attempt at genocide is an ongoing attempt to eradicate, and a full genocide is a full eradication. Yeah.
You hear the word here? Nicholas, are you understanding words have meanings? An ongoing attempt. It's like attempted murder.
It's not. It's attempted murder is somebody is still alive. Attempted genocide, millions of people's lives are lost.
Right, but the population is still there. Like, I don't even understand what we're arguing here. And
it's severely damaged.
Yeah, but they are still existing. They are still thriving. Therefore, it is an attempted genocide. Not
like,
it's full.
I don't even understand what we're arguing here.
Oh my God.
Like, I don't even understand why you so emotional about understanding the meaning of the word attempted and understanding genocide. Like, you could attempt a genocide.
Every single indigenous person or every single Jewish person to be classified as a genocide. That's not what a genocide is. No genocides were ever committed by that standard. It's a foolish place to draw a line. It's a foolish line to draw. Nobody is ever talking about what we're talking about if that's what we're talking about.
You see, here's the reason I do that. Just now, Trini Hotep, the reason I do that is because I'm serious about words having meanings. And this is how you express yourself for people to understand something. So if I want to express to someone that the Cherokee tribe, I use the Cherokee too much, the Comanche tribe no longer exists because they killed out the buffalo that they used to hunt specifically to try and exterminate the Comanche tribe. So a genocide was committed on the Comanche. They no longer exist. But if I'm trying now to say they attempted a genocide on the Cherokee because the Cherokee do still exist and they have their nation, I'd say there was an attempted genocide on the Cherokee. Like, this is words and meaning. And I would say that what the Nazis were attempting, maybe in the end they were attempting genocide. In the beginning they were attempting to rid themselves of Jews and get them out of the country. And I would say, looking at what Israel is doing, they are not attempting to genocide Arabs. Because Palestinians are Arabs and they are not attempting to kill all of the Arabs in the world.
It would have to be insane if they try to attempt to genocide Palestinians. It's not even flying the foot of the thing that Egypt, everything is in them. They will just really get rid of it. Israel is not going to do. They think that they have not tried. It is simply about conquest and interest is defending them. Whether you agree that the land will do or not.
You're breaking up a good bit there, Michelle. Michelle, you're breaking up a good bit. I don't think we're hearing you.
Yeah. Also, the Muslim community isn't a monolith. They're Shia and Sunni Muslims.
Yeah, we spoke about that.
Iran hates Saudi Arabia. Iran supposedly supports Hamas. Hamas hates ISIS. You know, it's a weird, not weird, but you know, they're not a monolith.
Yes.
So just that. Maybe the only thing that they all agree on is that what happened to Palestinians was terrible. But again, the Saudis want to make an agreement with the Israelis,
and that's why I believe
they want the surveillance technology.
You said Riyadh that the Iran supposedly. I believe Iran had a part to play in that, because Hamas's move doesn't have a positive outcome for Palestinians. It has a positive outcome for wholesale, at least on the Iranian perspective, geopolitics in the Shia Sunni refusing or insisting that the Sunni don't get into a partnership with the Israelis. So I do think Iran had a part to play in that.
Yeah, it's not. They could be they more than likely are the ones who were supplying weapons to Hamas through Hezbollah, on the Lebanon border. You know. And
I saw Sochan or someone of them posted a definition: a deliberate killing of a large number of people. If you go look for the legal definition, it's the attempt to destroy a national, ethnic, or religious group. The attempt to destroy them. You are going at destroying them. That's what the legal definition is.
By that definition, then you distinguish it. It doesn't necessarily have to just be Arabs. I think you're focusing on the word Arab when Palestinians have their own separate nationality and identity, which is the point I was trying to make by saying that the Arab community is not a monolith. Mm-hmm. What unifies them is probably their religion, but even then they are Sunni and Shia Muslims.
Correct, I know that.
I had to go to sleep just now. I have to work in the morning, but I just want to say. It's an interesting conversation that we're all having here. It pales into comparison, or I feel like we should all be a little bit more empathetic when we have these conversations, because it helps form your opinion and your views when it is that you're able to see it from the perspective of both sides. Viewing it from the Israeli or the Jewish perspective, or viewing it from the Palestinian and Muslim perspective. I respect all of you. You all very educated people. And as for my solution, I believe that we move past the two-state solution. The ideal situation would be a singular state, secular state, not an ethno state, where people of both sides can vote and have a say equally. That is never going to happen. But yeah, that's my opinion. Thanks for letting me join, and you guys have a good night, right?
You're welcome, bro. Maybe the way for that to happen is if you get a left-wing Israeli party with a Palestinian leader. Probably get a left-wing Israeli party with an Arab leader, and they get into power in Israel. Maybe, but I wouldn't. I wouldn't be surprised if something like that happens. Then there is a far right in Israel who I don't think they would be averse to committing some terrorism of their own. Anyway, we're looking to wrap up there. Let me hear your closings, people.
Yeah, the thing is for me, type of things, and people tend to try to use the fact that we have high melanin tone, you know what I'm saying? But the thing is I look at this thing objectively, right? Israel have a right to their state, and Palestinians have a right to their state. That's fine. But currently, what is going on is that Palestine is fighting for their state and they are losing. And that's just the outcome of war. You see, I think people in the West could sit down and have these debates from a comfortable place where you all drink juice and you all don't have, non-combatants being killed in front of your very eyes. You all can have these kind of conversations to my liking, right? You all could be anti-imperialist in London, or you all could be left-leaning in America, right? Because you all don't go through these things, right? Because here's the thing. When innocent people die, best believe the people who reside in Israel and Palestine have no time to hear you all talk about anti-imperialism and colonialization talk. They want peace. They want peace. They want peace now. They don't want peace tomorrow or yesterday. They want peace now. So to me, the thing for me is this: to me, as people outside of Israel and Palestine, this trying to play who leaning left and right ain't going to cut it in terms of geopolitics. To me, when it comes to this particular situation, right? Whoever pro-Palestine and pro-Israel are, y'all are even Israeli, y'all are Palestinian, but here y'all is leaning for one group. Like you're ready to wave the flag or something. Like you're about to get like reparations or land there or something. That's not how it works. So the thing about it for me is if you want to talk about this topic, leave all the emotions, look at it objectively, look at it factual, and just talk on the thing, man. Because this thing about apartheid and this trying to invoke, virtue signaling emotions out of people, and that ain't gonna work here. That ain't gonna work here. You understand what I'm saying? No. Because I don't think people understand what apartheid is. Well, people don't even know what genocide is. Kind of crazy to me, right?
And the reason I said initially at the beginning of this, I'll let everyone go. The reason I said initially at the beginning of this, the groups that are generally more pro-Palestine is. And there are certain groups that are pro-Israel too, generally. There are certain groups, the evangelical Christians are generally more pro-Israel. Right-wing Jews all over the world are very pro-Israel. The right-wing United States is generally more pro-Israel. Indian nationalists are generally more pro-Israel. And there are certain groups that are more pro-Palestine or pro-Israel. And the nature of these groups is that very often the discussion, because of the nature of how you end up in these groups, the discussion often gets emotional. Often. Because it's very often it's an identity group that you're based in is the reason you have a view in this. And if it's an identity group that you're based in is the reason you have a view, then views against yours seem to go against your identity, so emotions get heightened in this. And if you're saying that no, you're just logical, you're against oppression, stop BSing us, because there's oppression all around the world. You aren't as heated and hyped about oppression all around the world. Oppression and war and abuse is the commonality of human history. Yeah, Nicholas, go ahead. It's your closing.
I'm always angry. That's not true. I'm always angry.
Okay. Are you angry about the oppression in China? Where's oppression going on in China?
The Uyghur Muslims.
And who else?
Close in. Who has the time?
You see, it's goalpost shifting.
But no, Nicholas, and I don't mean this as a gotcha, Nicholas, because I am not as aware intimately about the Tigris Valley in Ethiopia and exactly what they are fighting for. And right now, I think Azerbaijan and Armenia is having an attempted genocide. The Armenians facing it rough. If you think any people have faced it tough, the Armenians, right through people trying to wipe them out. 1 million attempted genocides. Attempted. And there's oppression all around the world. So it's not that I am saying that to say not that you shouldn't care about oppression. Care about your oppression and care about which oppression bothers you most. That's your prerogative. But understand that the reason you care about this is because you are pulled in because of an identitarian link to something in there. And that's why very often there's an emotional link which makes it difficult sometimes to see the reason and logic of something, to reason it out with the facts of the situation. Nicholas, you have a closing statement, bro?
I would say emotions very rarely do invalidate someone's expertise on a certain subject.
Fact.
It rarely does. I'd say black people have the most valid thing to say about what they're going through and how they are pressuring things, even though they are the most emotional about it. The people who in it usually does have high emotional stand does have the most things to say, and I think we should defer to the people most harmed by it. But I don't know if I have anything.
All right. Sayo-chan, am I pronouncing that name right? I'm feeling like that name has some kind of fancy pronunciation. Sayo-chan, or is it Sayo short for Siobhan? Is Sayo-ban Siobhan name I'm thinking of? Anyway, genocide specifically implies attempted. And the reason, as I said before, Sayo-chan, that I won't use that in that way is because then how do we say when a people have actually been exterminated? What's the word to use when it actually happens? If genocide is the attempt, genocide is just the attempt, how do you say when it has successfully happened? What's the word for that? Yeah, Michelle.
That don't fit inside. Sorry, things like that don't fit inside a single word, and they fit inside discussions rather than words because they are complex in and of themselves. And I think that the strongness that attaches to words, to certain words, like I understand it and I agree to a certain extent, but words primarily are supposed to have a utilitarian. They're supposed to be able to be used, and how people use them is its main use. That just it's its main purpose, right?
I understand.
And second, and Kevin to take up on the exact rather than a lengthy discussion that can clarify it other than the specific words kind of I'm not going to finish. You know where I'm going with that.
I understand what you're saying. And I always used to tell my mother that because I like to, even though I try to, speak a little more standard English, I just real talk how I just want when I read. And my mother, if you have a Trini Caribbean, you know how those things go. And I used to tell she, and the aim of language is communication, and then she understand what I mean. So you understand what I mean, so don't bother me. And I understand fully what you mean there, Nicholas. However, especially in communicating on a wider field, you would want what you're trying to communicate, you want it to be explained so precisely that it's not easy for somebody to not understand what you mean. And if I say that the actions of the Trinidad and Tobago politicians genocided the Lavantil black youths, I mean, it didn't actually wipe them out fully. It's not accurately describing the idea that I am trying to display to someone else. And that's why I'm speaking about a clear, precise definition in terms of that. And that's why I have a problem a lot in modern times where we kind of obfuscate definitions, and definitions are hairy-fairy, and something means this, what it means that. And the definitions are so wide that it's very difficult to get anything. Be mindful, not mindless.
Liberal.
Yes, Trini.
So liberal. That's the problem too. That's the problem too.
All you go take me past midnight.
Yeah. I don't even no.
You have to give some. What is wrong with that? And I'm a leftist, not a liberal.
I know that, Nicholas. I can tell. And I'm glad. Nicholas, I want you to return to every live because you are politically opposed to me. I'm letting you know. I am politically opposed to your leftist views, but I would love them on every live. Michelle, you have something to say before we go?
Conservative, sir.
with anybody, who more pressed and who had it worse than who. Listen, you can go all the way back to the beginning of the universe, and somebody will say that they were more pressed at the end of the day, right? Now, I understand so what was happening, but we were discussing Israel and Palestine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think everybody's going to have their own personal viewpoints from whatever lens they are viewing it from. Whether they're religious lens, which I believe most people tend to do. Because with my experience with both Christians, myself being Christian, and being a lot of Muslim friends, it's a very religious people who is their food and all that. Now, at the end of the day, people are dying. Alright? And the attack, this one, alright? I don't believe it was something, the way that the amount of people, children, babies are being killed as well. I don't think it's something nice. I don't know if there are people who have a state solution to this particular.
He's being killed was actually debunked by the Israeli military themselves.
That's not true, Nicholas. The 40 babies beheaded business wasn't debunked by the military. The military said they have no evidence of 40 babies beheaded, and that's where they left it at. They said they are not going to release the evidence either because they do not want to scar the world with that. Now, that seems a bit fishy, I agree, but it hasn't been debunked. It has just not been corroborated. However, there have been pictures of some babies without heads and some babies burnt beyond recognition. So we don't know if it was 40 beheaded babies, but they are killed babies, which is enough for me.
Do we know it come from this specific thing, not ISIS or what the name is that I just? I don't even think that's a necessary thing to quibble about. Like if Hamas, you agree Hamas is a terrorist group. You agree Hamas is a terrorist group. If they killed babies, does that change your position? I don't think it will. And that's why even arguing this, to me, it seems, I spoke about this on Twitter, the argument where this thing never happened, but at the same time, if it happened, it doesn't change my view either way. That's a kind of dishonest argument. Don't use the this thing didn't happen argument. If it did happen, it wouldn't matter to you anyway, and especially when you interchange between the two. So I believe babies were killed, but it doesn't surprise me. I don't think the Palestinians are lying when they're showing images of their babies dead too, because you're bombing in a populated area. If you go in shooting in a settlement, obviously some babies will be killed. That's not an impossible thing to do. The burnt baby photo circulated by Netanyahu was determined to be AI generated. AI generated? Who determined that to be AI generated, and how they determined that? Because I didn't see that. One photo was AI generated. One photo in particular was confirmed by continuously to be AI generated.
But they added like this is the quibbling that makes me feel like some of the pro-Palestine people are pro-terrorists. Because why are we quibbling? Were babies killed? Yes, babies were killed. We want to know whether it was 3.5.
They're like, look at the horrible things they're doing. Just go back and think Palestine. Guys, because we've been in a response.
Right, but here's the question I'm asking you, Nicholas, and this is the question. If Hamas indeed did kill the babies, would that change your view? No, it won't. So why are you even arguing about the babies dead? Because that's not your bone of contention anyway. You already agree Hamas is a terrorist group. You already agree that even if Hamas did kill Israeli babies, Israel should not bomb Palestine. You already agree that. So then there isn't even an argument to make about whether the babies did or didn't exist. Anyway, hey, Ali, don't drag me no further. I go. Yeah. The discussion is nice. I don't believe, and I attempt not to impute negative intentions that people, I don't believe that just because you see things more from a Palestinian point of view means you want Israeli babies dead. I hope that's not the case. And I'd hope that people that see things more from the Israeli point of view, people from the pro-Palestinian point of view, don't necessarily think they want to see more people dead. It's not the case. How can we be pro-terrorist? Whoa. Well, there are some people who are pro-terrorist. Just by the way, there are some people who are. How can we be okay with any side killing innocent civilians? How can people rejoice over it? I think we could be okay with it without rejoicing over it. Okay in the sense of understanding that that is the story of conflict throughout history. So we say it shouldn't happen, but it's not like something that needs to drag you into emotional blackmail, because that's why some people do it. They post the pictures of dead babies on all sides of wars to attempt to drag you by your emotions. Don't fall for it. Anyway, people.
I'm sorry. Just give me 1 minute, probably 40 seconds.
Go ahead.
40 seconds. Okay. In terms of the person saying how we can cheer and not cheering about death on either side, there was an analogy made to somebody reading about Cuban people revolting against slave masters, and there was killing people indiscriminately. There was killing women, and they were killing children. Of the children of the slave masters, and the person thought about it. They was uncomfortable, but they thought about it, and I was like, you built your house on hell. You are responsible for when hell erupts around you. You dehumanize people and give them no option. You are supposed to reap what happened. You build your house on top of a hell, on top of a slave site. That is not their fault. Then they come and kill everyone. Yes.
Yeah, end the live. This is ridiculous. This is nonsensical. Because end the live, Nathan. Yeah, it has been nice. Be mindful, not mindless. Because right now you're getting real mindless in here. I can't.
Gregory Selby, where's the borderline in Israel divide from Palestine? There's a borderline in Gaza where they built a wall. There isn't really a borderline in the West Bank because they're continuing settlements there. I guess that's the answer you're looking for. Nicholas, I shouldn't be surprised you did say you are a leftist. Leftists?
I see a person think that, and they say it is to be expected. I'm not saying I think it. I say it's exactly what will continue to happen.
Oh, okay. You're quoting somebody else. I understand that. And that somebody else may very well be a leftist, and it shouldn't be a surprise. Leftists generally are communists. Communists take over by a revolution. Revolutions are bloody. They murder lots of people. They murdered the Russian royal family, children and all of them they murdered. It wasn't because they were oppressed. It was because they were envious and evil. And the idea that children of the oppressors are somehow good targets is nonsense. It doesn't work. It actually makes people hate you. And in modern times, you need the support of other people generally to win. So that idea that you go out and everyone is fair game, that doesn't work. And also, just so you know, the Israelis would use that same reasoning to wipe out every Palestinian child too. Hamas was voted in by 60% of the Palestinians, so 60% of the Gazans. So Gaza is ruled, they built their house on hell. So you can't be angry when hell engulfs your house. I don't agree with that line of thinking. I do not agree with that. Anyway, people, it was nice. Thank you guys for being here. I hope you were entertained, informed, or educated as per usual. I am your host, Nathan Springer. This was the Mindful Live. I will see you guys again for the next Mindful Live show, which is going to be tomorrow around 9. I will see you guys then. It was nice. The discussion was good. Peace out, people. Sayo-chan, just before I go, what do we call it when you successfully wipe out people? When you reach to the end of genocide, what do we call it? So genocide is the attempt. What do we call the end? Sayo-chan, I'm just waiting on that answer before we go. Extermination. All right. So extermination, just so you know, works for all animals. So there's a specific word for attempting to wipe out a nation and a people, but that specific word doesn't have a specific end. You're understanding why the communication becomes difficult. So instead of me saying someone genocided a population to the point of extermination, I will say someone attempted to genocide a population, or someone genocided a population and succeeded. I think that makes sense. It worked for every colonizer state, though they killed everyone, even the babies. I don't know about every colonizer state. I don't know if you know every colonizer state. Colonizing is the history of humanity, and I have a sneaky suspicion when you say colonizer, you mean European. Holocaust was attempted extermination, genocide implies. Alright. I understand what you're saying, but I don't agree on the legal definition there, and I prefer more precise definitions. Anyway, peace out, people. I'll see you guys in the next one. Laters. Bye, folks. Hope you stay well. I'm out.